Hey, Sanfam!
Hey, Sam. Delay.
Okay, this is a spontaneous video because something happened yesterday, and that is I was surrounded by a lot of beautiful women in their underwear.
Babe! You
How is
can't
that for
say it like
introducing?
that.
Well, it's kind of what we came to. That is pretty much the situation that happened.
Yeah.
And that is what we talked about on the way back, and we were actually reflecting on that, like, what actually just happened and how are we supposed to relate to it? We have not figured everything out, but we thought to share with you a bit of the thoughts that we were bouncing and then see what you guys think about it, or girls, ladies. We really love to hear from you so that we can also shape our thoughts about it.
Yeah, and now they still wonder why were you
Yes.
surrounded by a lot
Well,
of
this was the
people
video.
in
We'll
the
see you
underwear.
next week. No, so what happened is yesterday was a beautiful Sabbath day, really nice summer day in Norway, which is rare. So it happened, and we were like, okay, let's enjoy it. Let's be out in nature in God's creation. So we
And take some family time
Yes.
and read some books, like spiritual books with Elionai. And
So after church, we went to the beach. And the beach was full. Because, Norway, sun is out, summer day, everyone's on the beach. And we were there, and we were, reading the books with our son, and we were eating. Very nice lunch you made, which is great. And Ellie and I was bathing a bit, and we were cooling down. We didn't have anything else, so we stood in there on the sidelines. And, well, the day just went by, and we went to some friends after. Great Sabbath. Then we were driving back, and we have like 45 minutes, hour in the car. And then at some point you brought up...
yeah,
maybe you
because
can-
I had been, like, I've not really been reflecting so much about this before, but something when we were sitting there at the beach, it just, like, dawned on me. It just hit me that, like, what? We actually, all around us right now, are a lot of young women in their underwears. Like, because
But
that's
then the
basically
bikini, right?
bikinis, of course, they don't actually wear their underwears. But I mean, that's the thought that I got. Like, this is just as if all of them would be in their underwears, and I'm just sitting here, like, with my husband and with my child, and yes, like, okay, they're both just seeing all these women. What do I actually think about that? What do I actually feel about that? How is that impacting us? Or like, how are you taking that and handling that? And the thing is, I fully trust him, and I know that he is not on purpose looking and things. But I was just reflecting about that whole thing, that it like, imagine if I would have come in and see him look at the women in their like underwears on his computer, I would feel like, whoa, that's
A bad sign.
a bad sign, that's wrong.
Yeah.
But here we are voluntarily choosing to put ourselves in such a situation where we are surrounded with that. And I just started reflecting and thinking about that. Is that, like, shouldn't we do that?
It is
We were,
interesting
like,
that
it's just,
you have been thinking about yourself and about how you want to go to the beach, and you no longer want to go in
that's
the
true.
bikini.
Yeah.
And I would also not really want her to do that because, there we have the ideas of modesty,
Yeah.
and, the body is for the husband, and, vice versa.
I feel uncomfortable if I would go to the beach and show up in something that is looking just like my bra and underwear. So I don't feel like that would be
So-
nice to him. This is my personal journey, what I've thought of. And I don't know how long ago that was now, 2 years or something, that I started making that decision of...
I think it got when we were in Australia. There was a couple that
that's
intentionally
where it
stayed in the
started.
car and didn't join us on the beach. From our memory, that was because either they didn't have the right clothes, or because the rest of the group didn't have the clothes that they would, want to surround themselves with.
Sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Yes, my thought he slipped out of me faster than I wanted. But that, because this was the pastor and this was the Bible workers. So I think just felt that like, no, out of respect and
but at least it was for me kind of giving a first sign of like, okay, there's someone setting actual boundaries, which I hadn't really come across before.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then our journey developed, and then we at least got to the point where we decided for you, like how you would dress.
Yeah.
We haven't really done that with me. I think maybe that's because it's
not the same really
not the
for
same.
men. But maybe that's also just
let us know in the comments what you think.
cultural.
But yeah, anyway, we have never talked about those around. Like I've just been in my, I go through the experience, and yeah, I see the women around. It's not that I'm like, no, I'm, committed and therefore I'm like just having
blind.
my eyes closed on the beach. No, of course, like you look and you see things when you're playing, and there comes a woman in the water and there's her butt.
Yeah, like we literally had like 1.5 meter in front of us. Elionai was playing here, and then right next to him stood a woman turned to us with a butt with like, yeah, you just see everything, because women today generally are not very covering up, but rather the opposite, making it as small as possible.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, there is no option to even like look away if he wants to look at our child. And that's why I started thinking like, wait, that was actually the moment that made me start reflecting about this. And like I was looking at him also to see like, okay, how is he? How is he handling this actually? And
did I pass?
Yeah, but yeah, he was just like, okay, looking at our son and looking at the dog that was playing next to, and I know that he's very waringly not like taking second looks and so, but I mean, obviously you can't avoid seeing, and we just.
It sets off a conversation in the car about that second look and what is actually the temptation. And this is still where I also feel it's a bit hard to really grasp. Because we have, of course, the comment from Jesus where he says, when you look upon another woman with lust, you've already committed adultery in your heart. Now, what does that actually mean, to lust after someone? Does it mean there is that woman with the butt 1.5 meter away from you, you see it, you look away, you look at it again, and you fantasize things? Is that the lusting?
Or he doesn't do that. Yes,
no,
I'm just make sure that you know that.
Or is it to, when you see it the first time and you think, that's a nice shape, and you move on? Is that already lust, or is that just an observation? And I actually don't really know myself how to find myself in it. Because I've been corrupted by years of pornography and sexualization and everything. So I don't fully know what the pure ideal is. Yeah. And what I, at least in our conversation, what was a very new thought, as I hadn't really thought about these things before, is a temptation that I can really see coming from it is, okay, you are seeing beauty. You can't deny it. You can see a beautiful body part there, a beautiful shape there, a beautiful face there. Not just on the beach. Different places. But what could happen from that? I think when you think on that too much, and when you actually take time to think of like, yeah, that's really beautiful, and then when you look away and then you look back again just to admire the beauty, the more you do that, the more your standards are also getting higher. And then when you see your wife and you're like, I'm no longer so satisfied about this or that or that.
If you have like put when you see it, every time you see it, you put it in a category of like, ooh, and then you get higher and higher like ratio for what you think is beauty, and then suddenly you might be like, dissatisfied. That's what we talked about also. Like we think that somehow we have this, like both women and men, like we are created to behold beauty just around us. God created us to be in a world that was amazingly, exceedingly, extremely beautiful. And we are sort of meant to be drawn to beauty. So in itself, I don't think it's very weird. I mean, I can be at the beach and see that, oh wow, that woman is looking really beautiful. Like, oh, it's just so nice face features, or such a perfect smooth skin. Like, it's not weird, I think, that we are drawn to look at beauty. And I think there is somehow a disconnection to see and acknowledge that something is beautiful, and a disconnection from the lusting and actually like, oh, I want that, or
coveting
for women to start being jealous that, oh, I also want to look like that, or simply acknowledge and see like, that was beautiful. Like, but I think the line can be very hair-fine. Is that how you say?
Yeah, I think so.
In Swedish, that's an expression at least. So it can be very blurry, and the more you allow yourself to maybe in certain areas dwell on a beauty, then it can be like, say, if I would see a lot of beautiful women with perfect skin or a nice shape butt or whatever, and start like, starting admiring it too much, then the risk is that I start getting jealous and like, oh, I wish I looked like that, and get insecure. So I think with certain things like that, both for men and women actually, but from them a bit different perspectives, it can be good to just, even if it's innocent at the first look, because it's okay to acknowledge that something was beautiful, but then to on purpose not take any second looks, because that's stirring like, it's getting too close to a temptation of being dissatisfied, just like what you said, to start comparing yourself or your partner with something. So even if it wouldn't be that the person is actually lusting after what the person is seeing, by taking a second look just to see that, that was beautiful, I think it's just not wise. It's not.
But I also still don't understand something, and just gonna be fully transparent, that I wouldn't think of, when I see a woman who has some beautiful component, I wouldn't sexually fantasize myself with her. I wouldn't think that there would be something happening between that individual that I'm seeing right there and me. Like, that just doesn't happen. It's not. So I don't. But then, what I said is like, okay, when that then turns into a temptation, would either be to then take her, what I see from her, make that my like standards, and then become dissatisfied with anything else. Or obviously, and this is not just a beach scenario, this whatever, if a woman that is attractive comes up to you, then of course you gotta be alert, and you gotta make sure you're, maybe wise to not be in that conversation, maybe immediately like, hey babe, can you also join for this conversation? Or you gotta be smart about something like that.
Yeah, you mean if you feel that this person is very attractive, and you start feeling that, this is...
Yeah, I guess it could be wise to be precautious. But that it, like, what is it that makes me need to resist looking a second time? Like, why is it in me automatically that I would want to look a second time, and I need to make an active decision to not do that?
Yeah.
Is that because the beauty, and we're just drawn to beauty, and I want to acknowledge it, and you want to keep seeing beauty, and in this case it happens to be a woman? Or is it then, no, that is the lower passions, of the brain, that the animalistic kind of instinct that you do lust or you sexualize or whatever? I find that still very hard to really put my finger on. What is it why is it not just that I'm, okay, you see it one time and done? Why is there you kind of feel that you would want to look again, but you need to just resist and be like, no, but I'm not going to look again.
Like, why does it even come up a thought of looking a second time?
Yeah, so this is where the men can let me know. Like, am I just, corrupted by all those years of my past, or is that something that you're also struggling with? And maybe you have an explanation for it. Maybe it's just, being a man in a sinful world with a sinful body and whatnot. But
I think I wonder, does men struggle more with that than with women? Like with that, okay, you actually need to actively resist to take a second look. I mean, if I'm trying to think, like, okay, if it passes by a really, really attractive, good-looking guy, I could see that I'm tempted to look a second time. But if I try to think why, it's because it's something sticking out. It's something like that is like out of the ordinary, and I'm just drawn to see like, oh, how does
right,
that
you
look?
Want to study it in a way.
A new thing. It's like you want to just study, like, okay, what is it that makes this person like so beautiful? Is it the shape? Is it how the person walks? Like, you're intrigued in a way. You're curious, and I don't think, like, in itself, it's not a wrong thing to be curious about. Like, I think we are drawn to perfection, like, natural, because we were created to be in a perfect world. So that in itself is not wrong, but I don't think it's wise in the broken world that we are in. I don't think it's wise to take a second look, even if it was an innocent curiosity for what is beauty, what is it that is beautiful. Like, no, it wouldn't be wise, because at the second look, it gets too tempting. So it's a bit maybe hard to know what is. Why is it that you need to resist it, and should we do anything to I don't know how to say, train away that the thought of like wanting to look a second time even comes up? Is that something that we should work with, or is it just how it is? And
well, what we came to is next time when we go to the beach, we'll bring a whole lot of bathing suits and towels and robes, and we hand out to all the women. It's like, okay, get dressed. No.
I was thinking of, where are you going with this? I don't recognize it.
No, but what we have said is like, okay, it came then down to the question, like, should we go to the beach or not? And the thing is, like, the beach is such a nice place.
Go to the beach.
It's a nice thing to do as a family, a place to be. So what we have said now is kind of a,
I don't know if we came to
conclusion in a
anything.
way. It's like, okay, let's find a more secluded place than on the beach.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That was why we said we just want to make this video, share a bit of our thoughts. We know there's not necessarily a lot of concrete value and answers and stuff, but more that we'd like to hear from you about, like, how do you see this? And let's have this conversation, especially also thinking that when we want to really live holy lives, right, then we shouldn't be afraid to talk about topics that maybe the world is like, come on, don't be so ridiculous. That's just how it is. And but we want to have standards. We want to be wise and pure.
Because we know that the standards are there for our sake, and we know that will help us. And
happier families, happier marriages.
Always when listening to and following God's standards, it always ends up better. Even if we would feel like, say if it would come to the point of that we realize that, no, we should actually give up going to the beach, so to say. And now we feel like, but I really want to go to the beaches. Can't we go when there's any people? And it feels like a loss. But I know if it would be that God is actually wanting us to not go there for the different reasons of like why even put yourself in the places of temptation, then of needing to resist all those second looks. And maybe you're strong for most part, but then suddenly, we have had argues or whatever, and suddenly
weak moment.
A weak moment, and it starts getting more, and it can lead down, like, why put yourself in those situations? It could be an argument.
Especially also in context of that a lot of Christians are finding themselves cheating. on their partners. It's not like in the church, you know,
It
once you
never
accept
happens.
Jesus, it's like, no one cheats anymore. No, it definitely still happens. You hear of a lot of Christian leaders that fall for these kind of temptations, big names. So I mean, this is not something that we can think of like, no, but you know, I have
We're
Jesus in my
Christians.
heart and I'm a Christian. I go to church, so you know, I'll never do that. It's like, well, we also got to be smart and know that we are weak. And the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak.
Exactly. So
we
to
gotta-
take precautions, and it doesn't mean to live a limited life, like because even if for most people that would hear this conversation and watch it, they would think like it's crazy to even think in this way. But I'm not afraid for that. They can think that because I've discovered that every time we take those steps, that people or even we at first thinks like, whoa, we're gonna get a more boring life. It's gonna feel so limiting and bad. But every time we have taken those steps, it has meant freedom. It has meant that our lives actually got better and more positive and stronger bonds. And so I know if God would call us to give up going to the beaches when there's a lot of people there, I know it will be better for us. But we would just want to know, like,
And
try to figure out, okay, what does God want then when we want to live righteous and holy lives and really grow into that? I would love to speed up that process to become like,
No, we
more
have
like
only
Jesus.
talked about, you know, our dynamic, but our son was with us too. Now, I don't want to get into that. I think the video is long enough. But that's also an interesting element. Okay, for a young boy growing up, is it, you know, how is it for him to be surrounded by all of that? At this point, I think he's oblivious.
Yeah,
He's just
of
busy, you know, building his sandcastle or whatnot. But that is also something to keep in mind as young boys are growing up and start becoming more interested in the opposite sex and then coming to a place like that, which can be very tempting for a young person.
Yeah, I mean, it's harder to take something away. Like if we have been going to those beaches without any problems for the whole time, and then like, oh, are you suddenly when he turns 13 or 14 gonna say like, no, we don't go to beaches, and like that feels a lot harder than to have been thinking through things in advance
beforehand.
And like. I don't know how we even would deal with
that. But that's where your answers come in. So thank you so much for all your comments, your engagement. We are looking forward to reading all your thoughts about this topic. And YouTube thinks that this video here, that you will like to watch that one next. So you can try it out and let us know there. See you in the next video. Love you guys. Bye-bye.